Now for global business updates, Rotus Oddiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Dr. Abasi. Good morning, Vimbai. Good morning, Rufai, and all our viewers out there, including our ever-entertaining YouTube viewers. We kick off with what to watch this week. There's a whole lot going on. G20 in Brasilia, the largest economy in Latin America, kicking off today. There's going to be a lot of talk on climate. We'll bring you some comments from U.S. President Joe Biden in a moment. On Tuesday, we get data from Japan, trade data. As you know, Japan is an export-oriented economy. They rely a lot on trade, so we're going to get those numbers coming out of Japan tomorrow. Wednesday, we're going to get the LPR, the loan prime rates from China. It is not expected that there will be any changes. I think the 1 year is at 3.1%. The 5 year is at 3.6. If China wants to add any more stimulus, it can probably cut those rates. But the markets are not expecting that any cuts will be made on Wednesday. On Thursday, also Wednesday, we get CPI from South Africa, latest inflation numbers, and we'll get to Nigeria and Ghana in a moment. But on Thursday, Leseta Haniego will be announcing the rate decision from South Africa. We have seen a deceleration in inflation in South Africa, also South Africa and Kenya, as opposed to Nigeria and Ghana, who are both heading upwards. So perhaps we will see a hold from South Africa on Thursday, considering the fact that other major economies are cutting rates. So you want to make sure that you try to maintain that differential, in order to entice capital inflows into your economy. Friday, back to Japan again. We're going to get inflation figures from there. You've seen the yen moving back towards 155 levels, I guess on fears of trade tensions with the U.S. and so on and so forth. Oil prices, Adefemi Akinsanya already kicked things off, talking about the U.S. Finally, after months of deliberation, allowing Ukraine to use long-range missiles in specific targets in Russia. Vladimir Zelensky, of course, gave a speech yesterday saying, look, those are just words. Until we see the missiles, we haven't received them yet. Vladimir Putin responding, saying this could escalate things. Oil didn't really move that much, actually. I mean, you can see Brent crude at 71. Brent crude lost almost 4% last week. Was averaging about 75, but it has dropped because there's still worries over demand from China, which is the world's largest consumer of oil. I mean, look at Narendra Modi. What is the connection between the three countries he's visiting this week? He's going to Brazil. He was in Nigeria. He's also going to Guyana. Brazil, Nigeria, and Guyana are all oil-producing nations, right? So that's what we're seeing with there. Also, of course, there was an Israeli strike in Beirut that apparently killed the spokesperson for Hezbollah. So trade tensions are there, but as you can see, not really moving the needle much on oil. It's still the fundamentals of demand and supply, with a lot more supply expected going into 2025. Asia markets were mixed this morning. You can see the Shanghai Composite Index down by about 21 basis points. Your Hang Seng in Hong Kong, that was up. The Nikkei 225 in Japan, again, we're getting trade data from Japan Tuesday, CPI on Friday. Japan down, but look at the Kospi. That was the biggest jump for this morning, and that was mostly tied to Samsung. Samsung, of course, one of the giants of electronics in Korea, they announced a $7.5 billion stock buyback. So you saw Samsung stock, it appreciated on Friday 7.2%. Another 7% climbed it. So Samsung was one of the main reasons why the Kospi in Korea was one of the biggest jump of the Asian indexes today. Now, speaking of stocks, look, the Middle East has been hot, right? Arise News were in Riyadh for that future investment initiative, the summit. The Middle East has been the talk of the town. We just got data compiled from the ADX index over in Abu Dhabi, also the index in Dubai. When you put them together, they have crossed $1 trillion. UAE stocks at the total market cap now, that's more than Milan, that's more than Madrid, still under Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is almost $3 trillion, but between Saudi Arabia and the UAE, that's almost $4 trillion in market cap. Now, most of it is local listings, so they've been able to get companies to list on the exchange. When we talk about ministers in Nigeria and how they need to do their jobs here, part of the job of a minister, if you're depending on the sector that you're covering, is to entice companies companies to come and list on the exchange. It's not just the job of the NGX, right? It's a collaborative effort. So they've been able to get more companies to list. But more importantly, oil wealth, again, we keep talking about this. The gentleman that you're seeing to the right of your screen is Sheikh Tarnoon bin Zayed Al Nahyan. He runs 2 public investment wealth funds in ADQ and ADIA in the UAE. Together, they are worth more than $1.5 trillion. And as a result of that, the weighting on the index, almost 46, 47%, closing in on 50%, is tied to the royal family. He's the brother to the president. He's also, I think, the defense secretary or so. So the oil wealth has flowed in, and it is part of the diversification efforts over in the UAE. Still sticking with the UAE, but kind of moving to sports. There was a lot that happened. Netflix dominated sports this week, and I'm sure Aaron or AB will talk about it. The fight between Jake Paul and Tyson. They said over 60 million people on Netflix tuned in. But there was also UFC 309. You will see on your screen there Donald Trump leaning to his right, talking to a particular gentleman. That is the governor of the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. And in fact, they are second after the UAE's 2 combined funds in terms of assets under management. They have about almost 800 billion or so. And that's Mr. Yasser Al Rumayyan. He's also the chair of Aramco's board of directors and the governor of the Public Investment Fund. So he attended UFC 309. You can see Elon Musk to the left of Donald Trump. And I think that's Kid Rock to the left of Elon Musk in a hat that's laughing there. Over the weekend, Trump played golf. You know what's been going on with the Saudis? The Saudis have invested in Live Golf. They are competing with the PGA. Apparently, Trump played golf with the head of the PGA over the weekend. Then he was now talking also to the head of the Saudi Investment Fund. So it looks like he's trying to mediate there. But also, there was a lot of deal making that was going on. As far as Trump is concerned, he's also made. Let's move to Trump. Trump's picks. He continues to make picks to his cabinet. He's made a pick. Brendan Carr to the FCC, the Communications Commission in the United States. And that, of course, runs communications. It's like the equivalent of the Nigerian Communication Commission here, the NCC, that oversees telcos and so on and so forth. But Brendan Carr has, in fact, he's a commissioner. Trump appointed him to the FCC back in 2017 during his first term. He's a big critic of big tech. And it looks like they're going to be clamping down on big tech. In fact, take a look at the tweets that he put out, I think it was just 2 weeks ago. You received that tweet from Brendan Carr. It says, Facebook, Google, Apple, Microsoft and others have played central roles in the censorship cartel. He calls them the censorship cartel. He says the Orwellian named NewsGuard, along with fact-checking groups and ad agencies, helped enforce one-sided narratives. The censorship cartel must be dismantled. Now, keep in mind, the FCC is, run by Congress. As you know, yes, the Republicans run Congress, but their margin is not that high. So because some of them are in swing districts, they're going to have to watch what they do with the terms of who they want to dismantle. So I'm not sure how much power they have, but you can expect to hear Brendan Carr's language be very, very tough on big tech going forward. Of course, remember during the election, they claimed that Google and so on were using search results to favor the Democrats, blah, 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 blah. So, we'll see how that works out. To Nigeria, just to round off, numbers were released on Friday. Inflation, 33.88% headline. Think that's for October, up from 32.68 or so, 62 for September. So Nigeria's inflation has continued to tick up. It's the same story month on month. Ghana released their inflation not too long before Nigeria. We've got 2 charts showing you headline inflation in Nigeria and food inflation as well compared to Ghana. You can see the trajectory. Lately, both have been rising. So you can expect that the Central Bank of Nigeria is likely to remain hawkish as things move forward, which means borrowing costs remain elevated. We've got the Yuletide coming up. Hopefully, I don't know if harvest will be able to bring down cost of food, but you can expect that demand might rise depending on the pockets of Nigerians as we close out 2024. That's our update.
Prospects for Nigeria, I must have to say, Rotus. Inflation is still going up. February next year is going to be exactly 1 year since the tightening started. If inflation is still about 33%, it shows that the tightening has not worked. All the parameters they gave us before now, that by this time of the year, inflation should be moving to the 20-something percent percentile, obviously has not worked. And we know what is happening. Gas prices is part of them. We had some really blowback, some reduction in inflation rate, when we had the harvest seasons and all of that. But I think all of those gains has petered away at this point in time. It's a very sad prospect. We need to see more review as regards the economy. I mean, you said a lot, yes, as regards Trump. And let me go to the G20 and pack that with the meeting with Trump at the UFC at 309. Truth has to be said, G20 nations, a lot of them, they're going to talk about climate change, they're going to talk about the economy, they're going to talk about security. As regards climate change, Trump has put in a fracking aficionado in there to be able to head the energy ministry. What it means, America is going to drill more. They're going to expend more fossil fuel. At a time, people are talking about cutting those emissions. The problem I have with climate change conversation about the West is we Africans have not developed our own fossil fuel ecosystem. You guys have done the development. You don't want us to develop ours, and you're talking climate change. That's the hypocrisy I see there. But I know the earth is also heating up, and we need transient energy at this point in time. So what's the conversation? How is it going to sail through with Trump? Only time will tell. Also, the conversation as regards BRIC and how they're trying to have a new payment system to be able to pivot away from what Russia is facing and some other parts of the world. The fight against anti-corruption is also part of them. And that's why you see Trump is increasingly talking to the man that heads the PIF, which we both saw in Riyadh. And as I then told us that the PIF is topping over 930 billion assets in investment all over the world. Pretty much all the great things they're doing in the Middle East shows you, Rotus, that they are ready and we are not.
Right. Very quickly, I want to focus on soft power because I think there's a lot of that at play in today's business news. So if we look at President Tinubu headed to the G20 summit, of course, on the African Union ticket, and that interaction, of course, we just hosted the Prime Minister of India. Now, it all comes together because we know that last year, President Tinubu visited India at the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and he was also instrumental in ensuring that the AU secured that permanent seat on the G20. So, of course, as of the 1st of December, the G20 leadership will be taken over by Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa. So I think this is a really good time for Nigeria, even though it's on the ticket of the AU, to join the discussion, given the level of investment and trade and exchange that happens with India. However, having said that, right, you still on soft power, you now look at Donald Trump and, hanging out with the governor of the PIF and so forth, and the first thing that came to my mind was petrodollars. And I'm just like, so I'm sure all the BRICS presidents saw that video and that image and just had like a mini heart attack that the dream of de-dollarizing oil, just there it went. One UFC fight was all it took and the dream died a sudden death. So that's what I took away from it, but all coming together with soft power and those moments that leaders use to get deals done away from boardrooms.
Okay, very quickly, the big stories that fascinate me this week about Nigeria's inflation rate rising to 3.88% in October, where it will get worse. No, the question is, this tightening orthodoxy that we have been approaching and we've been adopting meeting after meeting of the MPC, it will get worse. The orthodoxy is not working in Nigeria. Let's not deceive ourselves. But in the United States, Trump trade is over. After digestion, there is hunger. And now we're seeing that hunger. Post-election rally, we have now going back to pre-election levels. Friday and this morning, the rates, the indexes went down in the United States. The major development in the United States in the pharmaceutical sector and the major impact on the Dow Jones Industrial Average was the appointment nomination of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as the next new health secretary. That affected the market. But generally also, we saw a downward trend in the market with S&P 500 going down 0.78%, with NASDAQ going down 1.24%. So the honeymoon with Trump trade, which is the technical word, is over. Big issues this week. We're expecting the Q3 report from NVIDIA. NVIDIA by Wednesday, we expect that. We expect the Japan's headline inflation, trade data on Tuesday, headline inflation on Friday. We're expecting Chinese LPR rate by tomorrow. 3.1% for 1 month LPR. There is likely to be 3.6% for 12-month LPR, but that is going to be most likely retained. So you have Australia, which last month held its rates, also going to speak to us on Wednesday. Those are big issues that we have to look forward to this week. Now, as for the UK, yeah, the GDP improved 0.1%, lower than the 0.2% that economists expected on Friday, as it were. And then, of course, Samsung, the interest rate, the stock price has gone up 7%, simply because Samsung now wants to buy back over $1 trillion worth of, South Korean won. South Korea is doing well. The Kospi is doing well. Asian stocks are doing very well. And the only outlier there is Japan. Finally, I summarize by drawing attention to Thailand, where Thailand, with the gender equality law, we are now told is going to attract more people, LGBTQ community, and that the economy is going to benefit from it. And a nomination in the U.S. affected the indexes. Another move in Thailand affected, the economy doing well. So you see these things go up and down. Escalator economic on the global stage. Thank you very much, Rotus.